This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. A Pakistani Christian seeking asylum in the United Kingdom faces possible deportation. This after being threatened by Islamic extremists in his home country. Now there's word that British authorities have detained him yet again. Mark Martin is in the CBN newsroom with more. Mark?
Heather, Pakistani Christian Asher Sampson's pastor tells CBN News that Sampson was released from a UK detention center last week on bail, but when he went to his regular sign-in this morning, authorities detained him. Reverend Lorraine Shorten called Sampson's situation urgent, saying he doesn't know where they will be taking him today. Sampson is fighting to stay in the UK after reportedly being threatened with execution by Islamic extremists in Pakistan. He arrived in the UK in 2004 to finish theology school to become a pastor. The UK denied his request for asylum last year, causing British authorities to detain him during his weekly signing event with the Home Office. The British Pakistani Christian Association reports Sampson spent Christmas in detention but was released on bail before being detained again. The organization says his case is ongoing and supporters are appealing for a resubmission of his asylum claim. The British Pakistani Christian Association says, quote, he is now being threatened with imminent deportation by the Home Office. Sampson released a statement through that organization saying, at my age, I should be able to look after myself and my family. I feel shame that I am not free to travel as every night I have to remain at the same family address. The British Pakistani Christian Association's chairman, Wilson Chowdhury, also released a statement saying, it is difficult to fathom that after all the visible rage and hatred expressed over Asia Bibi's acquittal and another two Pak Christian men who had tried to leave the country for their safety, but then had to return, who are now being sentenced to death for blasphemy, that the Home Office could imagine deporting Asher Sampson or any other Pak Christian in his predicament. CBN News spoke with Sampson's brother-in-law, Neil Walker, by Skype. He says Sampson has been sent to another UK immigration removal center and could be deported to Pakistan within 2 weeks. Walker says he doesn't think the Home Office understands fully the dangers faced by Christians in Pakistan. He's asking Christians around the world to pray.
I think that the Home Office does not have a sufficiently heightened sort of sense of the danger that Christians generally and Christians who are involved or want to be involved in Christian ministry, including sort of evangelism with the majority community, the threats that they sort of face in Pakistan. We'd really like Christians around the world to pray for his situation, to pray that the Home Office would consider opening up a fresh asylum case, which at the moment they appear to be unwilling to do.
So prayer is definitely needed in this situation. And Heather, members of Sampson's UK community have also launched an online petition drive. When reached for comment, the UK's Home Office said it would not comment on individual cases. Back to you.
Thank you, Mark. And we are joined now by CBN senior international correspondent Gary Lane. Gary, you, of course, have traveled to Pakistan over the years. And talk about the danger for someone like Sampson if he was to go back.
He is from Abbottabad. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you, but that is the city where Osama bin Laden was found and killed. It is right at the heart, at the gateway, actually, to the northern mountainous area of Pakistan. Taliban everywhere there, also Islamic extremists. And I know some evangelists from that area I've talked to and interviewed who have been attacked by Taliban types up in that area simply because they're Christian. And so if this man says, if Sampson says that he is under grave danger if he goes back there, that he's been beaten up in the past, I would take him seriously.
Mm-hmm. And what do you know about British authorities? Are they unaware? Are they simply not able to keep everyone who wants to stay in the UK? What do you think their situation is?
I think, as we heard in Mark's report, they just don't understand the threat that Christians in Muslim countries are under, and also Muslims who convert to Christianity in the West are under if they return. They don't understand that. They're not Christians. These are people from the Home Office in England, and they're not Foreign Service officers. I doubt any of them have ever traveled to Pakistan, maybe never even out of their country. So how would they understand this? And I don't think they want to understand. They're probably under great pressure to reduce the number of asylum cases in Britain at this time because of Brexit.
Mm-hmm. Give us a little sense of the context here in terms of, have we seen this happen a lot in the UK? Where is it happening in other countries?
Several years ago, I was in Sweden. It was happening there. Now, we told you the cases. Dale Hurd did a report on a case of an Iranian woman. I also did several on Pakistanis who were Muslims who converted to Christianity, and they ran into a similar situation in Sweden as well. They just don't understand what these Christians and Muslim converts are up against in their home countries.
What is your sense of what might happen in Sampson's case?
Well, I think the fact that he was taken in again and detained is not good for him. I think that, and then the fact that over the last couple of years, they've greatly reduced the number of asylum cases that have been granted from, I guess they're down less than a third now. So I don't think it looks good for him unless they bow to pressure from online petitions. The politicians and Homeland people there bow to pressure.
All right. Well, Gary Lane, thanks for your time.
Sure.
A federal appeals court has sided with the Trump administration on its military transgender ban. A 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. overturned a lower court's ruling that blocked President Trump's ban on transgender people serving in the military from taking effect. Trump announced in July 2017 that he intended to ban all transgender people from serving in the military. Today's ruling reversed one of 4 federal court blocks against the policy. The ruling is a small win for the president, but his ban still cannot take effect because of the other injunctions. Well, it is day 14 of the partial government shutdown, and congressional leaders are meeting again with President Trump to try to reach an agreement. Yesterday, on their first day in the majority, House Democrats passed a plan to reopen the government without border wall funding. This after Trump made a surprise appearance at the White House briefing room, accompanied by Border Patrol agents, calling on them to press his case for border security. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said today that the president is not backing down.
He wants these people to be paid, but he also wants them to be protected, and he wants to give them the resources and the tools that they themselves have said they have to have in order to do their jobs, protect our borders, and protect the people of this country.
Meanwhile, on day 1 of the new Congress, some Democrats already took steps to impeach the president. Well, some of the president's faith advisors are working with both the White House and Speaker Nancy Pelosi to resolve the shutdown. And one of them, Reverend Tony Suarez with the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, joins us now. Pastor Tony, Speaker Pelosi invited you to her swearing in, and you spoke with her yesterday. Last night, she said no border wall. What is your sense of what she needs to work out a deal?
Speaker Pelosi has been open to border security and even funding a wall, even dating back to last year, a press conference that we did together with her and the NHCLC. At that point, Speaker Ryan would not call it for a vote. The White House had agreed to protect Dreamers, and Leader Pelosi at that time had agreed that they would fund the wall, but Speaker Ryan did not call it for a vote. So here we are, fast forward January 2019. Leader Pelosi is now Speaker Pelosi. She's the most powerful woman in American politics. And my hope, my faith, is that now that she is the Speaker of the House, if we can get both sides to the table negotiating border security, including a wall, and protecting Dreamers, protecting children, I think that she'll have the prophetic courage to call it for a vote, which is really, that's where we're at. We've been waiting for years for the Speaker of the House, be it Boehner, be it Ryan, and now be it Speaker Pelosi, to call this for a vote, because we know that the votes are in the House to fix this immigration problem. But right now, we just got to get our government back up and running. We got to get it open. And I think that with Speaker Pelosi and President Trump, I think if we can get them to the table to negotiate and be open to these things, I think that we can see I think this could end very soon.
What are your hopes out of all this? I mean, it seems like such an impasse right now, but do you see any movement forward in terms of immigration, in terms of Dreamers, in terms of the wall? I mean, do you see any progress here?
Well, Reverend Rodriguez has been working behind the scenes and also, on the front lines between the House, the Senate, and the White House, meeting and trying to bring different ideas to the table. Do I have hope? Yes, I have hope. And it goes back to the analogy that, Reverend Rodriguez shared with me not too long ago, just showing us our history, going back to the mid-90s when the Republicans took the House while President Clinton was our president. And there was that sit-down meeting between President Clinton and Newt Gingrich. And they agreed that for the better of our country, they had to work together. And we flourished, we prospered. And that's what we need right now. Speaker Pelosi is an intelligent woman. She's a great leader. She wouldn't be the Speaker of the House if she wasn't. So between her leadership and between the leadership of our president, who's done many, many wonderful things to help us, I think between the two, if they can come together and talk and dialogue, I think both working together it's the solution to seeing not just immigration reform done, but everything else that our country is waiting for.
Well, I know there's a lot of hope. We will see what happens. Tony Suarez, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Talks begin Monday between two American envoys and the Chinese Foreign Ministry over the trade and tariff fight between the two nations. A Chinese spokesman says the talks are aimed at carrying out last month's agreement. The American delegation will be led by U.S. Trade Representative Jeffrey Garish. The talks are happening despite the detention of two Canadians in China for allegedly endangering national security. Several clergy abuse victims and their attorneys are calling for the names of bishops accused of sexual abuse to be released to the public. Their demands come as U.S. bishops gathered at a seminary near Chicago to pray amidst the clergy sex abuse scandal. One abuse survivor, Ken Karsmars, said that even after reporting the abuse, he was ignored.
I was molested when I was 10 years old at St. Rita Grammar School on the South Side. In 1992, I came forward to the Archdiocese of Chicago. Their response to me was, the priest that molested you was an Augustinian. We have nothing to do with Augustinians, so we're going to give you their phone number. You call them, let them deal with you. They didn't respond to me. They never called me back.
Pope Francis is encouraging the U.S. bishops to unify as the Catholic Church deals with a crisis of credibility. In an 8-page letter addressed to the bishops, Francis said no response or approach seems adequate. Well, we are learning more about that fatal crash on Interstate 75 in Florida where 7 people were killed, 5 of them children. Mandy Lamonda and her family were traveling on the highway, and she captured video from the scene on her phone and posted it on Facebook. You can hear her and her husband as they are watching the aftermath of the crash. They were shocked at what they saw, and she found herself praying.
Multiple crashes up there. Yeah, oh, there's one in the woods.
Oh my God. Sweet Jesus above. This is the worst I've ever seen something. Lord, let the people get here. Let the law get here.
It is a truck. It is a big truck.
Please be out.
Florida Highway Patrol says it involved 2 tractor trailers, a passenger van, and a sedan. At least 7 other victims of the crash were transported to the hospital, some with serious injuries. The children who were killed were reportedly part of a church group headed to Disney World. Well, Israel's political system is gearing up for April elections. Politicians are forming new alliances there with Education Minister Naftali Bennett and Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked, and are starting a religious secular party called the New Right. This while left-wing parties focus on their shared goal, defeating Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. If Netanyahu is indicted on corruption charges before the elections, legally he could still run. And if indicted after the elections, he would not be forced to step down. Though unnamed sources indicate President Trump prefers a Netanyahu-led government, analysts agree U.S.-Israel relations should remain strong in any case.
One of the most important things about this election is if 2020 brings with it a different president who is likely to have a much more critical policy towards Israel, much more resembling that of President Obama, having a government that is prepared to stand up to that, to not buckle under the great pressure that they will undoubtedly be placed in, will be very important.
Early elections will likely further delay details of President Trump's Israeli-Palestinian peace plan. Coming up, a new LGBTQ-friendly school program in Australia is drawing controversy. We'll have more on that next.
God Almighty is a God of blessing. He always wants to bless his people. But how do you get that blessing? And what principles will unlock that secret?
In Miraculous Blessings, Pat Robertson shows you how to open the floodgates of God's awesome blessings in your life.
In order to have a blessing, you've got to be blessable.
Discover what the Bible has to say about God's covenant of blessing, the laws of blessing, and what are the hindrances to the blessings of God.
The words of Jesus, they are as valid as the law of gravity, and if we follow those laws, we will be blessed.
You'll see amazing true stories of everyday people whose lives were rescued and transformed by God's miraculous blessings.
But even the doctors acknowledge that this had to be a miracle.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com to become a CBN partner and get miraculous blessings today.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
The Daily Mail is reporting on a new curriculum in Australia aimed at breaking down gender stereotypes. The pilot program gives students a variety of clothes and toys with the idea that they can choose their gender. Now, there's similar efforts underway here in the U.S., and joining us now is Greg Burt with the California Family Council. Greg, the State Department of Education in California is proposing a new health curriculum that talks about gender as a choice as early as kindergarten, from what I understand. Tell us about that.
That's right. They're revamping what's called a framework, which actually guides the curriculum going forward. And the topic of transgenderism, gender nonconformity is being encouraged in this particular framework. Kindergarten teachers are supposed to introduce this to kids to get them comfortable with kids who don't conform to the natural differences between the sexes. Pushing books like My Princess Boy, about a young boy who actually thinks he's a girl, and actually inviting guest speakers such as those who are identifying as transsexual right into the classroom.
Seems really stunning. Let me ask you, the state, from what I understand, is also introducing a concept it calls spiritual abuse. I've never heard about that in terms of a government curriculum before. What does that mean, according to the state of California?
Yeah, the same framework that's revamping gender identity issues is also introducing this concept of spiritual abuse. You know, it lists it right along there with sexual abuse and cyberbullying and physical and emotional abuse. They have this new thing called spiritual abuse, which they want to teach kids about. And it's a very interesting topic. They want to say that if you use religion to force others to adhere to rigid gender roles, or if you use religion to tell your partner that they shouldn't do things that they enjoy, that is going to be labeled as abuse. Now you got to think, who is going to decide exactly what spiritual abuse is? Do you want the government doing that? What if your daughter, requires of her partner that, they're not going to have sex before marriage? Is that going to be considered spiritual abuse?
All right. Well, let me ask you, this curriculum is so stunning. I know that it's open for public comment right now. Where do you see this all going? Is there any kind of pushback against this proposal?
Well, there are a gathering a cloud of folks who are pushing back against this. We're organizing to get people to write in, to email in. The state is actually asking for comment right now. Then there'll be a public hearing. But really, way too many parents are just not paying attention. this is sadly parents kind of wait till it comes right into their classroom before they say anything. But really, we got to speak up way before that. So
this is when the policy is being decided right now. Right. All right. Well, we are out of time, but Greg Burt with the California Family Council, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
After the break, we will take a look at today's trending stories from FaithFire.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
We had 4 jobs that didn't go right, but we didn't waver in our faith.
That's when God put on my heart that we needed to do the well.
Within a couple of days, we got an insurance refund check that we had no idea was coming.
And here we are, this year, it's just boom.
You go out and help other people and you get rewarded for it.
Get Pat Robertson's latest teaching, Miraculous Blessings.
The governor of Michigan vetoes a baby box bill, and This Is Us actress Chrissy Metz opens up about her faith. Right now, CBN's Jessica Chaco and Dan Andros bring us this week's trending stories from faithwire.com.
Michigan's Republican governor made a shocking decision to veto a bill that would allow parents to leave unwanted babies in a baby box outside hospitals and police stations. Dan, can you explain to us what is a baby box and why has this decision been so controversial?
Yeah, really, it wasn't actually. It's a controversial decision because there was bipartisan support for this bill, the baby box bill. And a baby box is just a device that's put at a fire station, a hospital, police station, and it's something that is designed so that women can give up their babies and not have to dump them. We see so many of these tragic stories where a baby's just left behind a bush or something like that out in the cold. Well, these boxes are climate controlled. And they're designed that so somebody can do that without fear and do it anonymously. But outgoing Governor Rick Snyder kind of inexplicably vetoed this bill, and the rationale that he gave was that there was no human touch. And I'll read you his exact quote. He said, "I don't believe it's appropriate to allow for parents to surrender a baby by simply depositing the baby into a device rather than physically handing the baby to a uniformed police, fire, or hospital employee." This is an interesting rationale, especially because he also vetoed legislation that would have banned doctors from prescribing abortion medications via teleconference. So he didn't seem to be in favor of having human interaction there, but used it for his rationale for the baby box bill. And it's already been used in Indiana, and we've seen several stories. We've covered them at FaithWire where people have successfully drop the baby there. It's climate controlled. There's a trigger call to 911 within 30 seconds after the baby being in there. So this thing had a lot of support. So really kind of a mystery as to why the outgoing governor vetoed it.
Next up, Hollywood actress Chrissy Metz says she's unashamed of her Christian faith. Dan, most people would recognize Chrissy from shows like This Is Us, but she's branching out into faith-based films this year, and even with the possibility of being marginalized.
Yeah, she's speaking out about her faith. She hasn't done a lot in her past about that, but she certainly is now. And she talked about how, despite it being sort of an uncool thing and you're risking, especially in Hollywood, being sort of an outcast and like you said, marginalized for expressing your faith, she just said, quote, "I don't care." And she's doing it anyway. And so she was talking about how you just have to have this foundation, this solid foundation that no matter what you believe, you have a foundation in something. And so she was talking in an article on FaithWire about how putting that foundation in your faith is the best possible place you can do it. And this is a great movie that she's starring in, which featured the story of a miracle where a 14-year-old boy had fallen under the ice for an extended period of time and was basically dead for almost an hour. And so the mother prays for this miracle, and she gets it. The boy comes back to life and is doing okay now. So really a movie that looks fantastic, and fantastic that she's being bold and speaking out about her faith.
Well, thanks, Dan. The film Breakthrough will be released this April. And for these stories and more, visit FaithWire on Facebook and on the web at faithwire.com. Back to you.
Up next, how Lauren Daigle says one of her songs drastically changed someone's life.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Christian artist Lauren Daigle says her hit song You Say helped prevent a suicide. She told Good Morning America during a Facebook Live interview recently, quote, "There was a girl the other day that said she was raped for 12 years or something and went to commit suicide like 7 times. She tried it. The record You Say pulled her out of that space." That's it for today. Have a great one.